to this edition of ET Now Hangouts with me, Ankita Saxena. Well, first up on the show, we have a very interesting story. Well, as they say, to travel is to live. But just traveling alone to beautiful locations doesn't make the cut for consumers anymore. Well, it's the experience that comes with the stay that people are really looking for. SaffronStays, India's foremost and exclusive collection of fully staffed and serviced private vacation homes, is doing just that. Funded by Sixth Sense Ventures, this 8-year-old network of story-rich private vacation homes across the country has a network of 300 plus private vacation villas and estates. And today we have in the studio the founder of SaffronStays, Devendra Parulekar, to tell us more about the growing trends in travel and tourism and the challenges of this industry. Hi Devendra, welcome to ET Now Hangouts. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ankita. Thank you very much.
And too sad that we are in the studio and not at one of the SaffronStay homes.
Oh, I would have loved to host you at one of our homes. It would have been a fascinating experience to actually see that in the backdrop.
Absolutely. But anyways, there's always a next time. But let's get started. How did you start with this journey? What started out as perhaps a honeymoon in an estate to your foreign travels? How did this idea come into being? Yes, I've done my research. Tell us, but for our viewers, how did this idea of SaffronStays come about? What was the inception?
So, three things. One is Tejas, my wife and co-founder.
Yeah.
When she was growing up, her dad used to be the chief economist of the Tata Group.
Wow.
So all her family holidays were in Tata guest houses, Tata Tea and Tata Power and so on and so forth. So she grew up in an environment where holiday meant a guest house or a holiday home.
Yeah.
So cut to 2001 when we got married, and my father-in-law gifted us a honeymoon stay at Victory Dawn, a Tata Tea guest house.
Yeah.
And I think that was a life-defining moment for me because I was introduced to this concept for the first time. And I remember we were sitting on the stairs, on the wooden stairs, and this gentleman, the caretaker, in white crisp uniform came and asked us, "Ma'am, what would you like to eat?"
Yeah.
And that was an aha moment for us. And we said, why is this not democratized? Why is it that somebody like me who can have the ability to pay for this experience is not getting it? And I realized that there are countless such homes across India which is just lying locked, which we should open. But of course then marriage, careers, professional lives, EMIs, children, all of that comes in the way. So cut to 2016, which is almost 16 years later. Tejas and I said, okay, let's just start something in this space. We've been holidaying like this forever. Let's convert this into a business. So both of us quit our respective professional careers. She is a chartered accountant and a banker from ICICI, and I was a partner in Ernst & Young in cybersecurity.
Right.
So we quit our respective finance and technology careers and deep dived into hospitality.
Right, great. But when I hear of SaffronStays and what you just told me about, what sets it apart from an Airbnb? Because the stays like these are very synonymous with Airbnb. What's your unique selling proposition? What's your business model?
So Airbnb has been the pioneer and the front leader in this space. But Airbnb is a DIY platform, which is a do-it-yourself platform.
Okay.
So for a homeowner, he or she is on his own or her own, which means welcoming the guest, putting the home up on the platform, curating the entire experience. All of that is on the homeowner. And likewise for the guest, it could be a hit or a miss experience. So you would have a superlative experience or you would have a pretty crappy experience. So for both, the problem that we are solving for both the guest as well as the host is a completely hassle-free experience.
Right.
So for a homeowner who does not necessarily have the skill, ability, or maybe the time, or even the inclination to do this, they take a back seat, hand over the entire, operations, management, branding to us.
Right.
And for a guest, we bring in certainty of experience.
Okay.
Right, which means they go to any SaffronStays home, they get exactly a similar type of an experience. They get great food. They get warm, hospitable caretaking staff.
Right.
They feel at home.
Right.
So that's our,
Right. So there's no property that's bought. You're basically an operations platform, and it's an asset-light model, right?
It's a completely asset-light model and a very new age, technology-driven asset light platform. We don't own a single brick. I wish I did own these bungalows, but yeah, we're running these 300 homes pan India without any assets on our on our balance sheet.
So what's the number? How many homes do you own? How many properties in India? What are the growth markets for you, and where do you what are the levers for growth for you, and what are these markets that are really doing pretty well and are picking up now?
Lovely. So if you look at, we started first 7-8 years of our business, we've been largely concentrated on Maharashtra.
Okay.
Why? Because Mumbai, if you look at our apartments, they're small,
very
tiny,
small,
and you have 5-6 beautiful roads getting out of the city. Mumbai Nasik, Mumbai Ahmedabad, Mumbai Karjat, Pune,
Alibag,
Mumbai Goa, and the coastal road to Alibag.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, let's put concentric circles around Bombay, and within a 2-hour, 3-hour driving distance, let's identify homes which could be private villas. And we discovered that Maharashtra has some unbelievably gorgeous terrain.
Absolutely.
The lakes, all the irrigation projects that have happened over the last decades. So you won't believe, Alibag itself for us, we run almost 55 homes, 55 bungalows villa in Alibag.
Right.
So our Maharashtra inventory is almost 160 out of the 300. And in the last 3 years, we said, okay, now let's push the envelope, and we forayed into north. So Uttarakhand, Himachal, Jaipur, Rajasthan, Udaipur, and now we are entering Kashmir.
Wow.
All of these territories now contribute almost 75 homes in our portfolio. And now we're entering, guess what? As a hospitality company, we stayed away from Goa for the longest time ever. And we launched Goa this April, and we're already 20 homes in Goa.
Wow.
Really spectacular, luxurious villas in Goa.
In Goa, right. Yeah. And what contributes to the maximum share of your revenue? Which area?
So today it's Maharashtra for the obvious reason
that you have the maximum share.
But the revenues are pretty much commensurate with the number of properties that you run, manage, operate.
Right.
So as we keep expanding into newer geographies, and we don't spread ourselves too thin. We take a region and go deep into that region.
Okay.
We at least get 30-40 homes in that region. We go deeper so that we get economies of scale, ability to manage, do all of that. So right now, this year's focus is Goa, and very soon we'll enter South.
Oh, interesting. So that's my next question actually. What are your expansion plans? Where do you plan to increase your footprint? And are you planning to go international soon as well?
Well, South is on our cards. So in fact, if you look at Bangalore, the weather of Bangalore and the areas around Bangalore, or if you look at Chennai and the ECR and the Pondicherry, I think these are just completely untapped. Completely untapped segments, markets, particularly for the business that I've come from, which is villa rentals.
Correct.
Why? Because you have a lot of tourist destinations in the south. You have Coorg, you have Chikmagalur, you have Ooty, but you don't have 2 to 3 hour driving distance villas. But the secret is there's so much money in the startup industry in Bangalore that they have built these bungalows out in 2 to 3 hours driving distance. Right? There are golf courses, there are community living projects, and all of these need to be unlocked for a holiday seeker.
Right.
So that's, and international, as you asked, we will get there. I wish to unlock the doors of Indian hospitality to the world.
To the world as well, like an Indian Airbnb.
And in fact, the other way around. If you go as an Indian to Europe, I would love to host you there, because one day, first day you can have the cheese and the,
the wine and the cheese and croissants,
By day
but you
3,
want dal roti.
I will provide you that across the world.
Yeah, that's a great idea, in fact, and I look forward to staying in a SaffronStays abroad. But tell us, on an average in a year, what's the occupancy rate? Because you mentioned that you manage the homes for these homeowners, right? So I'm assuming that it's over the weekend that you have these group of friends coming to your stays. But on an average through the year, what's the average occupancy rate?
So you've nailed it. If you look at our tagline, where families born, the reason why we crafted that is we realized quickly that bulk of the travel that happens in India for leisure is with families and large groups.
Right.
Which effectively means that you need to have a group size of around 6 to 10 for you to book out a bungalow. Otherwise, a couple going to a 4-bedroom bungalow will haunt, the place will come and haunt you. Right? You would rather want a group, you want safety, you want all of that, right? So we realized that when groups go together, they don't usually do that on weekdays, they do it on weekends.
Correct.
So I'm answering the question saying that on weekends we get near 100% occupancy. In fact, if you try booking in the next week or the week thereafter, very difficult to get. Long weekends are completely booked out. Weekdays, we find it a little tough to sell the villas, but we're completely all right with that. So on an average, out of 365 days, anywhere between 120 to 180 days, depending on how, where the house is located, the premiumness of the house, the more luxurious the house, the better the occupancy.
Right.
It's a very interesting...
in fact, that brings me to my next question. Very interesting point. That the more luxurious the house, it gets booked out faster. Look at the mid-income journey that has really picked up over these years. And in fact, post-COVID, travel has gone through the roof. I mean, if you look at the data also, statistically, the disposable income is going towards, luxury outings, towards travel, towards people want to have good experiences. How have you reoriented yourselves towards these changing consumer needs?
So it's the classic K curve, which is if you look at demand, it increases on the top as the top end of the segment.
Correct.
And it also increases at the bottom end of the segment. The middle segment, the so-called budget, that's where demand is probably not going anywhere, right?
Right.
So we realize that, as you premiumize, so in fact, now that we have 300 homes, 2 years back we used to have 120, but we churned out more than 60% of the home because they were not meeting our luxury quotient or, and the one single criteria, you will find it's extremely funny, our selection criteria for our homes is, are the homes and the location Insta friendly? If they have,
Instagram friendly.
Yes.
And that's your criteria for selecting a room.
It is. If the house is not Insta friendly, or if the aesthetics are not
it won't work.
It just doesn't work, because that's what drives travel. I want to stay in a home, and I want to post about it, and I want to make all my friends, which feel jealous. And the FOMO drives that much more travel.
I mean, that is an important Instagram. So what's not on the gram never happened, really, as they say.
What's not on the gram never happened.
Interesting.
And that's Gen Zs and the millennials have been traveling.
Right.
Gen Zs more. But that's what is driving travel.
But tell us, Devendra, about these travel trends. Is Gen Z really the driver of growth for SaffronStays in particular? Because you said that your positioning is very family-oriented, right? So is Gen Z are they a very strong market for you guys?
The definition of family itself has turned on its head.
Okay. Friends are family.
Friends are family. So our tagline for even corporate offsites, for example, is go as colleagues, come back as family.
Right. So this smart.
So this new term, which is called family, which is friends and family, I think that's the positioning. If you look at your own friend circles, you're probably more connected to your friends than your cousins. I think that old blood is thicker than water definition has probably kind of stayed back. Family sizes are coming together, dogs are coming into the picture, cats are coming into the picture. The whole structure of family is changing. So if you watch Modern Family or not, that's a classic case of how very differently structured our family structures are. So friends are family, and we define it in a very fluid manner, in a very modern context.
Right. Well, hold that thought. It is time for us to slip into a short break. You don't go anywhere, because after the break, we continue with this conversation. So, Devendra, tell us, what about your marketing? How do you, positioning, of course, you told me how your positioning is, but how are you marketing SaffronStays? Because this is something, of course, traveling is booming, and all the platforms and aggregators, of course, they're right there in your face. But how are you promoting SaffronStays? What is your marketing strategy?
So we have some unbelievable ROAS, or return on advertising spends.
Okay.
If you look at consumer brands, they would be lucky to get a ROAS, which means you spend ₹1 and how much top line you get, right?
Exactly. So the return on investment.
The most consumer brands get a ROAS of anywhere between 2 to 4. Good consumer brand gets 4.
Right.
Not such a great one gets 2. We get 25 for every $1 that we spend, and the reason is because the product is driven largely by customer advocacy, brand advocacy.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. You nailed it, right? So most of our traffic comes through. People go to a house, they discover the house. Everybody wants to be the first to discover a new hot off the cake, off the oven, property. They come, they put it on Instagram, and bam, there you go. You have so many people wanting to come there. Why? Because it's been tweeted by Anand Mahindra, or it's been tweeted. It's just fascinating how word of mouth and social media amplifying that word of mouth has changed the dynamics of advertising and marketing for us. And the conventional ways of doing things have been turned on their head.
You know, it's very interesting that you mentioned that how you pick locations that are Instagrammable. So automatically people will put it up on Instagram and you're not even spending a buck on marketing.
You nailed it.
That's great. That's the smartest way of advertising that I've heard.
Great product leads to great marketing and great advertising. It's just automatic. And all you need to do is just ensure that the service is good so that the product doesn't, disappoint.
Right.
Yeah. And here we ensure that we go to the ends of the world to actually make things happen exactly the way they happen.
Yeah.
The linen is high quality, better than 5 stars.
Yeah.
You know, the food is on point. It's home cooked, fresh food.
Right.
Right. It's not some common kitchen where food is being. We don't know economies of scale here. We are stupid enough to cook everything in our kitchens.
Right.
And have no economies of scale. We're okay. Right. Or even the caretaking staff. The single recruitment criteria. You know what it is? Take a guess.
What is it?
You have a great smile, come in. We'll train the rest. Rest we'll train.
Okay.
Right? So it's just the sheer warm hospitality that our folks need to have. The rest is very easy.
In fact, I was coming to that. You are into service business, right?
Yes.
So obviously service is the first criteria.
Yes.
Any customer, and these days with social media, with cancel culture, coming into picture, one small mistake and it's up there on social media, right? And sometimes you don't have control over the people who are taking care of the stays, perhaps like an Uber driver or an Ola driver who's probably misbehaved or something. How do you manage that? How do you manage talent and staff? How does that pan out? Because that's a very important part of your business.
No, I think it's a very relevant question.
Yeah.
And I always thought that one bad incident and things will just collapse.
Blow out of proportion.
It isn't so bad. It's what people realize at end of the day, we are also humans.
Right.
Okay. I think if you portray yourself as a company that is run by humans, and you run it with all your heart and soul, people are very forgiving.
Right.
They're very forgiving. They understand things go wrong. They understand process despite the best of your efforts. Because you've got to be nailing that Six Sigma 24/7, 365 days a year. And it's not easy. However much you train, you put in your processes, all the corporate, all the staff that we hired. We said we'll bring in from the 5-star world. As we started growing, we realized at end of the day, the last person standing is the caretaking family.
Correct.
And that caretaking family is from the village.
Right.
We are not importing people from outside.
Right.
All that we needed to do was provide respectability to that caretaking family, that respectable way of earning an income.
Yeah.
And the Raju Bhangya gentleman happened. And we just trained them up to, have managed guests, and we found that Indian guests, whatever you see on social media, the Indian guests are extremely forgiving, and they are not as demanding as you think they are.
Okay.
They want creature comforts, they want sleep quality, they want all of that.
Yeah.
But they are okay,
If just the person turns up with a good smile and is warm.
Yeah, a few mistakes are forgiven.
Yeah.
They don't want white-collared, or rather the butler
service. Butler service.
They don't want butler service. Don't try and over-engineer the product. Keep it simple. Keep it very, very. But cleaning, hygiene, fresh washrooms, nice-smelling linen, unforgiving, brutal.
Yeah.
Work on a few things, but make them so well-oiled engine that you नींद में से भी उठाओगे, you won't be able to make a mistake. That kind of regimented training has to happen. Rest, trust your team, trust them to take empowered decisions, and make it happen.
That's great, Devendra. And finally, before we let you go, you have to leave us with a piece of advice for all the young startup founders who are perhaps watching. What have been your lessons in your journey? What have been your challenges in the hospitality business? And through that, what can you advise the young startup founders?
Lage raho munna bhai.
That's the story for all startup founders.
Yes. Overnight success happens after 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just that, before your first 5 years, just go in you getting good at what you're doing. And then you start getting, people start coming to you, your teams start coming to you, the right people start coming to you, and before you realize that juggernaut has become bigger and bigger, and suddenly you're, the power of compounding. So we have been doubling our numbers for the last 6 years. Every 2 years we double our numbers.
Okay.
And that trend is only continuing. So we're the only profitable company in this space for the last 6 quarters.
Wow.
And that profit numbers are we'll touch 100 crores almost this year. With 3 to 4% EBITDA. clean EBITDA,
cash positive,
from the business, cash positive from the business. But we've done it with deep technology. We've done it with a lot of efficiency, a lot of hard work. It's come after 10 years, right? And once you've tasted profits, you will never go back. You're never ever going to go back on that.
Right.
But my advice to all startup founders, anyone out there who's looking to be an entrepreneur, is just lage raho munna bhai, right? It'll happen.
But Devendra, are you planning to raise funds anytime soon? What fundraising have you gone through? What rounds have you been through already?
Wise man, the monies. I've always said that. Raise money when you don't need it, hire people when you don't need them. We also believe in raising money when we don't need that money.
Okay.
Right? And we will raise money. We're profitable. We're growing at 50%, 45% every year. We will raise money. There's no reason why we should not raise money, because money doesn't hurt.
Exactly. So, which is why I wanted to understand the investor interest in you. I mean,
there is active investor interest in us, and I think anywhere between a 10 million round we should do this sometime soon.
Right.
We haven't yet appointed a banker or so we will. But I mean, we would love to hire people who we don't need today, but will become additives to the business, and we need capital which we don't need today, which will always allow us to expand faster. See, startup means growth. Startup equal to growth. Startup equal to fast growth. And one of the, if I can say, the catalysts to growth is capital.
Absolutely.
Now, if you notice, right in the beginning, you asked me a question: are you asset light? Do you own anything?
Right.
The best ROC, or return on capital employed, is in a business like ours where there are no assets, but you are generating. See, for example, returns. If you look at, we're turning 100 crores with 3 crore, EBITDA, with barely $3 million invested in our entire history.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're still growing 40%, 45%. So the ROC, or the return on capital employed, is very, very high. Correct. So it's an execution game. I mean, it's not just doesn't happen overnight. It took us 8 years to get here. Right? It's a function of time as well. But what I'm trying to say is that as a startup entrepreneur, you go for the long haul, and be very frugal and very prudent about how you use that capital. So yes, we will raise capital, we will hire people, especially even if we don't need them at this stage.
Absolutely, Devendra. On that note, thank you so much for taking the time out, and it was lovely chatting with you here.
Thank you, Ankita. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
And well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of ET Now Hangouts. I'll be back next week, same time. See you soon. And well, with that, we've come to that part of the show where we tell you what's trending. And well, of course, the e-commerce players like Amazon and Flipkart have seen some record-breaking festive season sales. To break down these numbers for you, I'm joined by my colleague Aishwarya Patil. Let's go across and take a look at that.
Well, the Diwali festivities have summed up with a bang for Amazon and Flipkart. Let's take a look at the Amazon Great Indian Festival first. They saw 140 crore consumer visits during this season, an 85% uptick, especially for the non-metro cities is what they reported. They also saw highest single day Prime sign-ups in the first 48 hours of Amazon Great Indian Festival, and nearly 70% of the Prime members who shopped during the festive season were from Tier 2 cities. So largely throughout the festive season, especially during Diwali, the trend has been that non-metro cities beyond Tier 2, Tier 3, even Tier 4 cities and beyond have been shopping through e-commerce websites, a trend that is exceptional this year, especially for 2024 festive season. What they're saying is that more than 60% of new Amazon customers were from Tier 2 cities and beyond, and more than 50% of them, of the TV purchases came from Tier 2 as well as Tier 3 cities. What exactly did the shoppers shop on Amazon? Smartphones, televisions and laptops, all on an upgrade basis, or most of the consumers wanted to upgrade to a bigger smartphone. Just one trend that they've also witnessed during the Diwali, last few days of Diwali, was 5G smartphones sub 10,000 rupees saw a massive boost. Especially 1/3 of the budget smartphones came from brands like Realme, Xiaomi and more. They also saw an uptick in the premium segment growth, which saw a year-on-year growth, especially from products coming in from Apple, Samsung, which grew about 10x and 5x respectively. Let's also take a look at Flipkart's data. Flipkart celebrated record engagement of 7.2 billion visits during the festive season. And the growth was driven largely by premiumization, personalization in terms of the products that they bought, and this also came from tier 2 cities. So the trend, of course, a growing consumer base for e-commerce platforms. 12% growth in customers on a year-on-year basis was seen on Flipkart's platform, and a 17% growth towards sale of premium products is what they've reported during the Diwali festive season.
And well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of ET Now Hangouts. I'll be back next week, same time. See you soon.